Started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I was not expecting this many people, given the fact that there's an awesome panel going on right now. But I really appreciate that. Just to preface everything, if you're looking for a code and develop specific talk, the next room is probably the better option for you because I'm not going to be talking about code. This is going to be more about how to utilize WordPress to help your professional growth. So I'm going to be spending, it's going to seem like I'm talking a lot about myself, but it's really just, I'm one example of how you can use WordPress to really kind of kickstart your career. So, to introduce myself, my name is Adam Soucie. I'm a web developer at HighForge. It's a digital design marketing agency here in Orlando. I'm also a content writer on occasion, and I'm also part of the WordCamp organizing committee. So if you liked the speakers, awesome. If you didn't like the speakers, blame David. The thing with any development career is you have to start somewhere. So a little bit about me. 2 years ago, I was in a kind of a crappy situation, to be perfectly honest. I was in a job I did not like, doing sales, which I'm really not that suited to do, and I wasn't making a lot of money on top of it because it was a really bad time to be in that particular sales. I was selling soccer uniforms. And I decided, I've had enough of this, I need to look for something new. I started looking online, trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I had some experience in a previous job where I worked PR. I did a lot of stuff, basically building websites, but I was a user. I didn't know how to code. I had taken one HTML class in college and forgotten all of it. So I was going back and forth, and I was like, you know what? I really liked that class. I probably should have done more with it. I'm gonna spend some time kind of learning a little bit more about it. I signed up for a Treehouse account. Kind of took it easy. I was doing both my job and taking the classes, and I wasn't getting a lot done. I felt like I could be doing so much more with it, I just needed to focus. So I sat down with my wife, I talked to my parents and said, you know, I really need to, I think if I'm going to really be successful in this, I need to just quit everything and just focus on getting a job in web development. So they were like, it's risky, but we support you. And I did it. I quit my job at the end of March. Spent literally 1 month. I had to give myself a deadline. 1 month. Go hardcore. I treated it like a job. 8 hours a day. I was taking classes, coding, building my personal site, and just went at it. Then I started applying for jobs. It took me a little bit to get a couple interviews. But actually, my first real interview, I'd had one where it was like, well, I might have a job for you in about 6 months. I was like, well, that's not helping me now. My first real interview, before I even actually had the interview, they sent me a programming test. Now, I'd only been doing this for a couple months, and I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. This is the best I can do. The only way I can guarantee I get the job is if I turn in the test. So I spent 10 hours on this basic one-page programming test. It had to be responsive, which at the time was relatively new. It had to be IE8 compatible. Obviously, I develop on a Mac. So I had no way, I was not aware of all the testing tools and the VMware and all this stuff at this point. I had no way to test if it was going to be IE8 compatible. I just had to do the research and kind of hope I would be able to figure it out. Turns out, and actually there's someone here from my company sitting right there, he saw the test, and he can attest to the fact that I'm considered the best test that's ever been turned in to this day, and this is 2 years moving from that. So that got me in the door just to get the interview, and it was a 4-hour interview process because normally our company, we actually protract our interview process over the course of a couple weeks, but we really needed someone right then and there. So they just basically, I sat in a conference room for 4 hours, and the CEO came in, who's actually speaking at the business panel right now. Our director of development came in. Our director of marketing came in because they knew I had a background in PR, and I got run through the gauntlet. And at the end of it, I got the job. And I'm pretty sure I went back to my car and cried because I was I was like, well, for one, I was like, thank God it's over. But since then, I've never left the company. And that was kind of the start. How many of you guys, this is your first WordCamp? That's great. A year ago, that was me. This was my first WordCamp last year, and I was just amazed at how, like, I saw all these people, like, talking about these great things, and I was like, I want to be that guy. And I set a goal for myself. I'm going to be one of the speakers next year. So I got in touch with David, and I said, what does it take to be a part of the group? How can I get more involved? How do I get to become a speaker? And he walked me through the whole process. And if you're local to Orlando, you've probably seen me at a few of the meetups. I do a lot of this. I do a lot of these talks because I wanted to give back. I wanted to share my story, and that's a lot of what this is all about today. So that's how I've gotten from there to here, and the steps I took. It started with alternative education. So many people nowadays, you guys all know about the traditional college experience, the high school experience. That worked really well for me in my initial careers. I started at DePaul University in Chicago. I was actually on an academic scholarship, but was told after the first semester my program that I was going into was delayed, and as a result, it was going to take me 6 years to graduate. I was like, I can't do that. I actually came down here to Full Sail, and that's actually why I'm still in Florida. Was one of the first people to get a bachelor's degree in game development. Found out it wasn't for me. The traditional college experience did not work for me. So I found these options. Treehouse, Code School, Code Academy, all are great and fantastic options. The best thing about Code Academy is it's free. But both Code School and Code School they have some free classes, but like really once you start getting into it, you really do need to pay for it. And honestly, you should. Your education has value. You should be paying for it. Treehouse, you have, I think it's a 14-day free trial where you get to see everything. Treehouse was the one that worked best for me, but that's because of their style of the video is right there, and then the way they do their quizzes and the coding and everything, that worked best for me. It may not work best for you. But I recommend all three of these because I was doing all three of them. Just Treehouse was my primary. As options for you to go through them, it'll give you a chance. There are so many different parts of the web that you can learn about and learn how to do them that you've just got these. Use them. They're all very inexpensive. That's the best part. You don't have to drop down. Treehouse and Linda are available. Yes, they are. Thank you. If you are an Orange County resident, go get your library card. You can access Treehouse for free and lynda.com for free. Those are. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a
Treehouse and what was the other one?
Lynda. Lynda.com. And what are you going to learn when you do those? If you want to be a WordPress developer, if you want to really mess around with the code of WordPress, now I'm not just talking about making a theme look pretty. You need to learn PHP. WordPress is built on PHP. It is the central language of WordPress. You need to learn PHP. But in addition to that, pause for effect and drink. Obviously, you're going to need to learn HTML. That's the building block of the web in general. CSS to make sure it looks pretty, and jQuery to make sure that you can, which you have to learn JavaScript, but the easiest way to do that is by learning jQuery to learn how to make your stuff interactive. Because your site can look great, but if you can't interact with it in any way, it basically just becomes a digital magazine. So even just things like making sure, just jazzing things up a little bit, being able to do interesting stuff with your forms, you're going to need to learn JavaScript and jQuery to do that.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Will these slides be available online?
They are actually already available online, and I will talk about that at the end.
Good, thanks.
Now, although I started off I basically jumped right into a job, it's actually okay to be by yourself at first. I'm a huge believer in the idea of you have to learn how to rely on yourself first before you can rely on others. I've gone through a lot of career changes, and the one thing that I've learned is that the times when I was relying on other people to help me help me through my next transition, find my next career. Basically, like, this guy tells me he's got a job waiting for me, and I just sat around waiting for that job to start. And then it ended up not being what I thought it was going to be. And if I had spent those couple months waiting, looking around for other opportunities, I may have found a better situation. You need to learn how to do the things yourself first before you kind of go out in the world. So you need to hone your craft. That means you're going to write really crappy code. Just ask Jeff. The stuff I wrote at the beginning was terrible. But then you need to figure out why it's crappy. So you're going to need Google. And then you need to fix it. And then you start the process all over again. That is how you get better as a developer. Write crap, fix it, repeat. Plain and simple. You have amazing resources to help you learn how to fix it. The Codex for WordPress gives you everything. Basically, all of the code for WordPress is explained in the Codex. There are a few holes and bits and pieces there, and that's something we're going to try to address a little bit today at the contributor session, which will be in this room. Stack Overflow and Stack Exchange, which are kind of part of the same group. Half the time you're going to Google something and go, how do I do this? Most likely your first couple results are going to be Stack Overflow results, and they're going to be like, my code's broken, and then there's going to be like 6 people telling you, hey, your code is broken, here's why, here's this bug, here's how I fixed it. And you'll find out. That's the easiest way to find out. There are usually four or five ways to solve any given problem on the internet. Just because someone's coded it this way doesn't mean it's perfect. There are other alternate ways to do it. Some of those may not be the best way, but it is a way to solve the problem. There are so many times where even our director of development, he wrote this huge, like, 40-line block of code to accomplish this one task. I took a look at it and I was like, this is a mess. Like, and it was one of those things where we were doing a kind of a hackathon day. We were just kind of make it work, just make it work. And then I actually looked at it and went, oh, actually this WordPress function takes care of these 20 lines. This WordPress function takes care of these 10 lines. 3 lines of code, and all of a sudden our file is much smaller, it's much leaner, it runs faster. You learn these things by going through Stack Exchange, seeing the different ways that people do things, and really just by Googling.
And Stack Exchange, that's its own entity? Or is that inside the WordPress?
That's outside of WordPress.
Okay.
Although there is, and I'll have links at the end, there is a WordPress-specific version of Stack Exchange where basically there have been so many WordPress questions asked that they've actually kind of given it its own subdomain.
And is that .com or .org?
I'll have the links up at the end. No worries. Next, you need to find your own bunch of a-holes. I'm a huge Guardians of the Galaxy fan, and I have found my own bunch of a-holes. You can try to guess which one is me. Which one's David? You know, I hadn't put this into the context of the WordPress group. This is more my company, but
Don't go there.
Honestly, David is Star-Lord because he really is a fantastic leader for us. He is the guy that really kind of he's the rug that pulls the room together. To use a different movie reference, he really is a great leader for us. He's done a fantastic job. All of the organizers have really. Today has already been a fantastic day. Please thank your organizers when you get the chance. So, but outside of just finding a company, it's the communities that really help you grow. If you've been to either the local Orlando meetup, you've been to the meetups in your area if you're not local to here, you've seen how what makes WordPress special is we actively try to go out there and help each other. We don't compete, even though we may compete on a business level, but we want everyone to succeed. That's the great thing about open source. It's not, oh, there's a definitive amount of money and we're all trying to grab at it. We know that if we do our jobs right, that money pile just keeps growing, and that way more people get to share in it. We love to help people out. Twitter is also a great resource. I don't necessarily recommend the WordPress hashtag because it's usually filled with spam and junk. But every once in a while you can find a nice little nugget in there. But really, the people, like some of the people that are here at this conference, like Mark Jaquith and Andrew Norcross, they've been fantastic resources for me when I'm in the middle of, it's the middle of the day and I just can't figure something out, I'll shoot a message over to Norcross and be like, hey, how did you solve this problem? Because I know you've seen it. And usually within 15, 20 minutes, I've got a response. And sometimes he'll shoot over an article, it's like, oh, check out this function. Or, check out this method and here's a link. Those developers, another one, Jesse back here in the back, he's a fantastic Genesis developer. He's been a huge resource for me on when I have Genesis questions, because I know he's one of those people that Genesis is like, if you need help, use him. So I went, okay, I'm going to use him, and I got in touch with him on Twitter. Also, your local Facebook groups. Usually the WordPress groups in your local communities also have a Facebook page. It's a great way. Post your question. People will do their best to get back to you. It's like an interactive, like immediate version of Stack Exchange. I know Jeff and myself are very active on the Orlando one. A lot of times, the difference probably between the Facebook groups and maybe say Stack Exchange is when people will post them, it's like, here's how I'll help you solve a little bit of your problem. But if it's really obvious that what you're looking for is, hey, can you do a whole bunch of work for free for me? We'll go, here's how to do 20% of it, and here's my email address for the rest of the 80%. We can set up how I can help you in a business relationship. So it's actually, once you get started, it's a great way to help kind of ease into the business. It makes it a little bit easier to start the conversation. The next step that you want to take, once you feel comfortable and you feel like you're really doing a great job, you really got your stuff down, now it is time to give back. Like I mentioned earlier, the core contributions, that we're having a huge session. It's basically the second half of the day after lunch is going to be in this room. Core contributors, including Jaquith and Norcross, are going to be here kind of showing you, here's how you can give back to the WordPress community in a code way. And they're also going to talk about the documentation standards and all that, because we don't just need help in WordPress on the code side. Yes, that is a lot of what we do. But we talked about the codex. The codex was written by the people in this room, the people like this, that have contributed and said, oh, you know what? The way you describe this function, actually it works more like this. And I just clicked edit, and it works like a Wikipedia style site. I edited this, and they're going to show you the proper ways, that kind of the channels that go through that. Jeff has actually done that he's found a couple bugs in a recent a patch was put out. He was doing some accessibility testing. He was like, hey, whenever I try to navigate with the keyboard, this is broken. We've got to fix this, because people use their keyboards to navigate. Not everybody can use a mouse. Another great way to contribute is just to, let's say you've come up with a solution for you found, and you know what, I've used this on like 3 or 4 sites. Turn it into a plugin and release it for free. It's a small thing. It's not really something you can really build a business out of. We talked about that at the Businesses of Plugins panel yesterday. Those little things, release them out for free and just let other people use them. Put it out on GitHub if you don't want to put it into the plugin repository. Just put your code out there so other people can use it. So all those things those little small free resources that you found while you were Googling, that you were using, now it's your turn to give back. And also, this is actually something that's relatively new. I think the link was, they kind of really went live with it about last week. I could be wrong. I just found it last week maybe. But it's hack.pledge. I don't know the exact URL for it, but I know if you search hack.pledge, you'll find it. Basically, what it is in web development, once you start learning, you'll realize that about 10% of your time is spent actually coding. The other 90% is figuring out what the hell you're supposed to be doing. And like, this isn't working. There's a great meme of, it's the same image twice. Guy in front of his computer. First caption, I don't know why my code works. Or my code doesn't work and I don't know why. The second one, my code works and I don't know why. And that we go through that on a daily basis. And part of that, the mission of the Hack Pledge is to make a commitment to your craft. And say, I'm going to master my craft. And then once I have mastered it, I'm going to give back, and I'm going to commit to do at least an hour of mentoring to someone that is trying to master their craft. I'm not quite there at the point where I would consider myself a code master, so I have committed to mastering my craft so I can then help someone. But going back to finding your own group of a-holes, that is what really helped me at my company. Is the company I work for, we have a fantastic culture of making sure that everyone is on the same page and everyone is working towards one common goal. So anytime we run into a problem, we all help each other. And we've all tried to make sure we master our crafts together. Some of us are a little bit higher than others, but at the same time, just because you're really, really smart and you think you've learned all there is to know about WordPress, you've been doing this for 10 years, a new set of eyes from a new developer brings a completely new perspective into the world and goes, actually, have you thought about doing it like this? Because I understand you explained it, but this doesn't seem very efficient. What if we went and did it this way? And all of a sudden a light bulb goes off. That's exactly how we should be doing it. New perspectives always give that. So master your craft, take the experiences you've learned, and then share them with the world. And with that, wow, I did it in faster than I expected. I usually ramble. So, questions? Bueller? Look, I'm going to put the links up.
Is that a Lebowski reference you made somewhere midstream?
Yes, the rug tying the room together. Before I get to the questions, I want to just give a special thanks to HighForge, who has really kind of made my career possible. Our Director of Development, Adam Bradford, who is not here. Scott Mann, who is actually speaking. He's the CEO. He's the guy that really gave me a shot. He's speaking at the agency panel. And Jeff DeWitt, who is right here in the room. And here are the important links. I'll leave these up for the rest of it, so that way you guys can. And then, Ryan, you had a question.
So what's been the most difficult, like as a developer, like is there a particular area that you've especially been struggling to get better at, or one that you've struggled to get that you've been trying to figure out and you've gotten that you now have? I can't work with
I know what you're trying to say, and there's two answers to the question. The one I really struggle with, and I continue to struggle with to this day, and this is the clean version, is screw JavaScript. I hate it. It's very quirky, and you have to do things very, very specifically. And when you're trying to get stuff done fast, and you tend to make a lot of mistakes like I do, it just makes for a longer day, and it gets frustrating. But JavaScript it's the hardest one to master because it has a lot of quirks. So that's kind of, but where I've really gotten better actually is learning the WordPress specific functions, and the best resource for that has been the codex, because the great thing about the way the codex is set up, you can actually, you put in codex.wordpress.org/function_reference/ and then just type in the function name as you see it in WordPress, and you'll pull up the page for that function, and it'll tell you here's what the parameters are, here's what you need, what the default values are. So here's the things that you don't have to pass into the function. It's a great resource. It's basically an encyclopedia of WordPress, and I could not do my job every day without it.
Moving from one career field to something that's completely different in such a short period of time, did you ever struggle with imposter syndrome? And if so, did you talk to that?
Every single day.
A what syndrome?
Imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, Chris Lemma talks about it all the time, and it's basically this feeling that, and honestly, I'm dealing with it right now in this room, which is I don't feel like I deserve to be here. I don't feel like I'm not an expert enough to be talking about this. And it's something that we deal with. You will, like, day one, you'll figure something out, and you'll just want to tell someone about it, and then you go, man, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Why am I saying? It's that constant feeling of I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And some people deal with it better than others. I struggle with it pretty badly. Just ask Brian and Jeff. But at the same time, part of the way you deal with that is you just try to put yourself out there and realize that you're going to be wrong sometimes, but that's okay. You know, as long as you're not just going, this is the only way it can ever be done, and I am a genius, and I am the authority, and anyone else that says otherwise is stupid. If you take that attitude, you're just being a jerk. But if you just go, hey, I think this is the best way to do it, I could be wrong, you're covered.
So, in the course of getting to where you are today, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort and patience. Can you tell us about that one moment early on, right after you kind of started your new career in with coding and whatnot, that the light bulb turned on and you got some confidence and you felt like, all right, I made a big step today?
That's a great question. The question was like, what is that? When was my kind of light bulb moment, in a sense? And really, my light bulb moment was when I started at HighForge. My entire portfolio site, which I'll be pulling up in just a minute, was built on PHP. It was straight PHP. It was not WordPress. I had used WordPress as a blogger, but I had never gotten into the code of WordPress until I actually started at HighForge. I knew at some point I was going to need to convert it, and I spent about a weekend. I said, you know what, I'm just going to do this. I told my wife, like, we've got nothing to do this weekend. You're going off to take the kid to Disney. I'm going to stay home, and I'm just going to work on this. And I copied the same design and layout. I didn't want to change that. And I actually converted my straight PHP site entirely to a custom WordPress theme. Once I completed that, I was like, well, I actually kind of know what I'm doing a little bit. And it just it built that confidence. And it's, my next one was the first time I figured out how to write a plugin. It was a very simple plugin. It doesn't do anything. I will not release it because the code is terrible, but it functions. And even in another sense, you have those little aha moments every single day where you've got this problem. You're like, how should we do this? And then you step back a little bit. Maybe a great resource I found is when you're really stuck inside a problem, go take a walk. Even if you just like, you know what, I just need to go to the bathroom. Just go to the bathroom, you come back and okay, I've gotten out of it for a second. Let's take a look at this again. Jeff and I were actually working on something a few weeks ago where we had just done a whole labor estimate. We were about to send it over to marketing for them to actually develop the proposal. And we were like, hey, you know what, wait. Let's take another look at this. I went and I grabbed a marker. We actually started writing on the window because we didn't have a whiteboard. And Ryan's looking at us like, why are you guys drawing on the windows? What are you doing? And we're like, no, just watch. And we took a look at what we had broken down and went, throw it all out, let's redo it. And in 15 minutes, we had come up with a completely new scope of work, but one that we are now actually, once we finish it, we're going to then take it and sell it to the other divisions of it's for a local Florida hospital. We're doing a site for one of the individual campuses. We're going to then go to the other campuses that we've worked with and go, do you guys want this too? Which is now a great business opportunity. And it's something we know they can use because we're redoing their online menu system for their cafeteria. So.
First off, kudos on saying like sometimes you step away and take a quick break. I've done that many times.
Yep.
But my real question is, although you've already said you really don't care for JavaScript, do you recommend learning JavaScript or PHP?
It's a great question. Should you learn JavaScript or PHP first?
Especially when it comes to WordPress.
Specifically, if your focus is going to be on WordPress, I would say you can, for the most part, get away with just learning PHP because a lot of especially if you're not going to be doing everything from scratch, which at most of the people in this room, you're not going to be at that stage yet. You're going to be using either a pre-built theme and customizing it to what you really want, or you're at least going to use a starter theme or something like Genesis where you have the tools. Those you can get away with not needing to know JavaScript as long as you kind of have a basic understanding of it, like just how the JavaScript functions, but not be like super awesome at it. Because you can basically, if you know how to fix a couple errors, you'll be fine. Because a lot of pages and those themes that you're going to use as your basis have already taken care of a lot of that for you.
I've heard you mention Genesis a few times. I'm not familiar with that.
Genesis is the best way to describe it is it's technically a theme, but it's also a framework. And when you build something on Genesis, you have a few different options. You always start with, you install the Genesis theme, but it's basically a blank slate. It's got a kind of a standard layout. And then you build you can either build a child theme yourself, or you can purchase one of there's tons of themes that are out there that are meant to be a child theme of the Genesis framework that it's built on that. And the great thing about Genesis, well, I'm not the biggest fan of the way the code is structured, just because I like to have a lot of control. Their code is very, like, it's designed to, like, oh, you want to put this here? Just use this filter and just change it around a little bit. It's really difficult to kind of break Genesis down into like a 1-minute answer, but the company that developed Genesis is called StudioPress. Go to their website, it's studiopress.com. There's a great resource as far as it explains how Genesis works. If you were here yesterday at the end of the day, I think it was in this room, she gave a quick overview of it with some graphics, but I don't have them readily available. Okay. Oh yeah, we got plenty of time. Any other questions? Alrighty.
When are the videos going to be up?
That is a great question. The videos will be up pretty much as soon as WordPress Central can get them up, because we're going to send them, but there's a queue. So I think it usually takes about a month.
So it's at WordPress.
WordPress.tv is where all that stuff is.
I'm running into a lot of people who want to know what I've done and they're asking for my GitHub.
Mm-hmm.
And did you run into that, and how quickly did you get your repository?
I don't actually share anything on GitHub yet because I'm embarrassed. Actually, pretty much a lot of the stuff I do, the code that I do have online is on Bitbucket, which is very similar to GitHub, but you're allowed to keep it private for free, and it's just because I'm not ready to that. I've got a lot of cleanup to do, but I do have one, and it is a great resource. Actually, from a business standpoint, we were talking at the office. We were talking about this recently, where the funny thing about investors and stuff like that is they want to see the work that you've done before they ever actually talk to you. So if you have your code out there, they can see that you write really good code, and you're the kind of person that could probably be a good resource. And like, if they know, like, hey, I'm looking at this company to potentially invest in them, they'll check out their programmers, and they'll see, like, are these guys good, or are they just, blowing smoke out their ass? They will check you out before you, and you won't even know it because GitHub is out there and it's public. So it's a good idea to get there started, but make sure the stuff you have on there is pretty good, just because if you want people to look at it. The other great thing, though, is you put stuff out there let's say it is bad, because the saying in the military is no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. Your code, you may think it's great, but you put it out there, you'll get good feedback. And that way you'll get a chance to actually fix it and make sure it's good. So sometimes if you're not sure, put it out there, have people look at it, then pull it back down, fix it, and put it back up. Alrighty. Thank you, everyone. You guys have been a fantastic audience.